Hello. Here is more unscripted content because I guess that's all I am capable of producing nowadays. Something that I thought, I don't know, as of maybe yesterday, was like, maybe I should do this, was I looked back at my old videos and was like, hey, Micaiah and the Black Knight, like, my favorites. Maybe I should watch my old video again and see if my thoughts on things have changed. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna watch my old video and talk about stuff that maybe has changed, stuff that stays the same, after close to a year since last making it. So, I don't know, here we go.
I'm just explaining my own personal opinions about two beloved Radiant Dawn characters and why I think they're perfect for each other. With that out of the way, here's why Micaiah and the Black Knight are my OTP.
Also, spoilers for all Radiant Dawn.
I've seen two common explanations to immediately dismiss these two as a ship.
Oh, okay. So, I should probably start, like, why I even included this segment in the first place. So, I don't know, it's kind of common when you're going through stuff online to see naysayers and people who, don't agree with your opinions, and that's totally fine. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. It's just kind of frustrating when the opinion is, applied to not just the characters, but also the people, and, it gets a little under your skin sometimes. And so, I don't know, I figured that a good way to start the video was, when someone immediately says, your ship is bad, then at least you've got a reason in your head why, I don't necessarily agree with that. And then you smile and you move on. So,
the first goes something like this.
The Black Knight says maiden one time, and the shippers go crazy.
The Black Knight calling Micaiah maiden is hardly something to start a ship over. I agree.
Pause. So, I do agree that this, while, wonderful that it's something that, the nicknames and whatnot, that's something that the shippers can use and latch onto. It's cute. And you know what? It's been a year, and I'm gonna say it. If that's the only reason you ship this, I don't care. Like, go for it. Because, life is too short to let other people tell you why you can or can't ship something. So you know what? If this is why, cool. Because you know what? That's why I started shipping this. Like, in the very, very, very beginning, like, before I made this video, like, forever ago, when I first saw these two, back in Radiant, not even Radiant Dawn, like, back in, like, Fire Emblem Heroes, like, man, it was baby days. Like, I knew nothing about them, but I was like, man, that's kind of cute how he came in the Tempest trial, like, so, I don't know, just don't let anyone get you down. That's all I'm here to say.
He's not the first one to use that title. Some random Benyon soldier uses it in the prologue of Part 1. In the same way, Sir Knight, what Micaiah calls the Black Knight, was first seen in the infamous Path of Radiance Chapter 11. Micaiah, the Daein commander, calls him Sir Black Knight far before Micaiah ever meets him. It's likely that many people call him Sir Knight because he is, get this, a knight. Their titles are clearly that. They're titles. They aren't personal to them, and there's no reason to base a ship off of them. However, something I will point out is the possessive adjective, my. It implies that the modified noun is either highly respected, as in my lord, or personal, as in my dear.
If I would have made this video, like, in the future, like, I don't know, maybe last September or something, then, I would have definitely put in a jab at the Death Knight, but, this is neither here nor there.
The Black Knight calls Micaiah my maiden twice, in 3.6 a reason to fight, and in 4.3 distortions. Whether you see these as respectful titles or an implication of a deeper attachment is up to you.
Something that I think about sometimes, because head empty, always them, is that the Black Knight really doesn't have to be this, like, nice, warm, and open person when he's with Micaiah. But, it's stated, at least in the game files that we can't see, because the game glitches in America. It says that she sees the way he treats her as being warm, and the Black Knight doesn't have to be warm, like if he was going to be her protector. Like, there was no reason for him to be. And definitely the whole, you can't say that the 4-3 interaction, like they were leading up to that, that wasn't something that was planned, I don't think. Because of stuff that I'll probably end up talking about in the future, because I have some opinions about that now that I didn't have before. But anyway, so it wasn't really a build-up to her following him to the tower, so I don't know, there was just not really a reason for him to be cordial. Like, he's very not so with Soth, and, that doesn't change anything about the relationship. He still comes and helps the Dawn Brigade. He still comes from Micaiah. He still talks to Soth, but, he's a lot more antagonistic towards him than he is towards Micaiah. So, I don't know. I don't think there's a problem with looking at this and saying, he's being kind of sweet with her. He is. And I don't think it's all a ruse. He's kind of nice to other people, too. He's just extra nice with Micaiah. I think that that's a fine reason to like them. Anyway.
Heck, Izuka calls Micaiah my dear maiden when he wants to use her to put Peleus on the throne. Context is key. Izuka calling Micaiah my dear is much different than Zeheart calling Ileana the same. There isn't a clear indication as to any deeper meaning for the Black Knight's occasional possessive pronoun. As for Micaiah, well, I'll talk more on her feelings later. The second common dismissal I've seen is this.
Micaiah and the Black Knight is just another boring knight and lord ladyship.
I haven't seen this one as often recently. That one seems more like it was an old dismissal that people had ages ago when, I don't know, couldn't think of something to say, I guess, so we're gonna say this instead. But, I don't know, we'll see if my point still stands.
We've seen it before. Someone is in trouble. In swoops a knight in shining armor to save the day. Sparks fly, and from this moment on, the two realize they're head over heels for each other. It's done so often, I can see why people are sick of it. Fire Emblem has its own share of bodyguard crush tropes, especially knight and lady dynamics. We see this already in Tellius with Elincia and Joffrey, and who can deny how powerful Seth and Erica's bond is in the Sacred Stones? If we're being honest, there are plenty of ships looking just in Fire Emblem that are much better examples of the trope than Micaiah and the Black Knight. So why bother defending them then? Well, it's because I never saw them as this trope at all. It's not what drew me to them. Let's start at the beginning.
I don't really think I have anything to add on that. Pretty straightforward. I think that still stands.
It's easier to start with Micaiah and her feelings. She's one of the main characters, so she gets more screen time. She's also much less secretive than the elusive Black Knight and talks about her feelings much more openly than he does. After the Black Knight introduced himself to Micaiah, she immediately said that she knew she could trust him. There could be many reasons for this trust, including his renown as one of the Four Riders, the possibility of Micaiah sensing his brand like Stefan does to Soren, or her hair and blood giving her a judgment of his character.
Something that, since playing through Radiant Dawn again, I can confidently say that she has no idea that he has a brand, because there was a line in Micaiah's boss dialogue with Soren, I believe, in 3-7, where she mentions that. I think he's the first person that she met that was like her. And so that means that she has no idea that the Black Knight is also one of the branded. So, food for thought.
Whatever the case, Micaiah trusts the Black Knight enough to fight alongside him instead of escaping herself. Micaiah shows great admiration of the Black Knight, similar to how Soth admires Commander Ike. Her speech mocking Ike in 1-4 directly parallels her praise to the Black Knight in 1-9. She respects his strength and implores him to stay and aid them in Daeon's restoration. She expresses similar feelings if initiating conversation in 1F, saying that they could take heart in something if he stayed, presumably victory. He leaves after this battle and isn't seen by Micaiah again until 3-6. When the Black Knight warps to the Dawn Brigade, Micaiah excitedly tells the Black Knight, "I want you to know I'm happy to see you again. I'm very glad you're safe."
You know what? And I just think that this is very warm. And there is nothing wrong with looking at this, seeing how happy she is that he's alive and well, and they're very tight. She really admires him and wants him here with her, and that's good and warm and just good. It's good.
At the very least, Micaiah sees the Black Knight as a trusted friend and comrade. He respects her privacy and not wanting to share her motives for attacking the Legus, yet he still offers his help to her. There isn't any interaction in 3-7, so it's off to part 4. 4-3 is the final time the Black Knight appears to protect Micaiah, but this time he's only there for her. She explains her excitement to see him safe once again, reinforcing that she cares about his well-being very much. The Black Knight explains that his master desires her presence in the tower, but Micaiah refuses to go, saying that she needs to make it to the tower together with her friends. The Black Knight claims he'll come for her again, but we never see this confrontation. If you played the English translation of Radiant Dawn like I did, then Micaiah and the Black Knight don't interact again. I remember being confused watching Yune talk about his death, but nothing was mentioned about Micaiah. Surely she'd have some feelings after seeing the person she idolized so much kick the bucket, right? Actually, she does. There's a line in the game files that glitches in the English version. It's translated in the files, but it never shows on screen. Here's the line Yune is supposed to say. "Micaiah, you're sad too, aren't you? You wish the Black Knight could have stayed by your side." The translation from Japanese adds another phrase. "Micaiah, you're sad too, aren't you? That knight treated you warmly. You wished he could have stayed by your side."
Ugh, nothing head empty. It just still, it gets me. It really gets me. Because even after seeing that this Black Knight that had protected her and helped her is a villain who is working, on the enemy side, Micaiah still gets to see, or still feels, I should say, upset over all of this. And she doesn't see him as like an enemy. She's seeing him as someone that she wished could have remained with her. And that's it. It's just, I wish I had a better sad emote because it makes me feel sad.
At the very least, Micaiah treasured the Black Knight as a comrade and a friend. Even as they walk to face the goddess in the tower, Micaiah wishes she has the Black Knight's company and is saddened at his loss.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, so Micaiah admires the Black Knight, but what about his feelings?
A good fraction of the Black Knight's actions are on order from his master. However, not all of them are. For example, in Path of Radiance, the Black Knight was not ordered to murder Commander Grail, yet he did anyway. He has his own agenda that aligns with his master's wishes, and he carries out both. I'm going to look at the Black Knight's 3 major interactions with Micaiah and try to decipher how much of his actions are dictated by Sephirin and what part is his own.
I'm pretty sure if I remember this part of the video correctly, I ended up deciding that all of his actions were on orders, so we're just going to watch through that section, I guess.
The first time the Black Knight saves Micaiah, she asks him how he knew she was in danger. He replies, "That is not important right now." His deference of the question implies that he was on orders. Telling Micaiah later that he must take leave of Dayan confirms the suspicion. The second time, the Black Knight doesn't say much, only opting to refrain from asking why she took part in this battle, which seemed to go against everything she fought for earlier. He is most likely on orders here, though it isn't said explicitly, because of Dayan's role in the Continental War. Finally, in the desert, the Black Knight states that his master wants to see Micaiah in the tower. None of these instances seem to show any personal agenda, with the lone exception of staying with Micaiah until Ike's force is attacked in 3-7. It's unclear whether he wanted to face Ike in battle that day, or if he was still keeping Micaiah alive to preserve Dayan as a fighting force. In fact, there aren't many opportunities to see the Black Knight's character on his own. The best place is his own memories, revealed after he dies. Black Knight Zelgius, what are his motivations? Why does he do what he does? It's hard to pinpoint his personal motives in context of the game because his decisions are largely dictated by Sephirin.
So, something that I thought of a lot after posting this video was I was wondering if I downplayed Saffron's involvement in Zelgius's life, because I don't want to do that. I really, really enjoy Saffron as a character, as do I, most of the characters in Radiant Dawn, and I think that he's very tragic, and his connection with Zelgius is tragic, and the fact that they both decided, together to set off to the end is just, it's sad, and I don't have a sad emote. But I guess what I'm going for, or what I was going for when I made the video, and I still stand by this, is looking at the before this happened Zelgius. Because something that I noticed when I was replaying through Radiant Dawn is that we get a very good glimpse of the before this happened Sephirin. We get the Sephirin before the Serenus Massacre, which was the one happening that pushed him over the edge, which drove him from having hope in humanity to having no hope. And in a second playthrough of Radiant Dawn, you get, or Sephirin I should say, gets to have the ending that he was looking for. He gets to be happy. He gets to unite the goddess in the way that he intended before all of this happened, before the Serenus Massacre, before he lost hope. And Zelgius doesn't have that chance to go before he lost hope. So when I did this segment of the video, I was looking back at the only time that Zelgius talks about his dreams and what he wanted. And, before he had totally lost hope, before Sephirin had told him all of the horrors of the world, and before they had, decided together to end it. And yeah, I think that was the angle I was going for when I was going through and doing this. So maybe I had this speech too early, but that's something I was thinking about.
Zelgius didn't wake up one day and decide, "Yup, this world's a total bust. We have to purge humanity." That's Sephirin's ambition. This ain't about him. This is about Zelgius and what Zelgius wanted when he joined up with Sephirin. What was he looking for?
Yeah, same thing right here. Clearly once Zelgius joined up with Sephirin, their ambitions were one. They had one goal, and it was to end the suffering and bring Ashura's judgment. But, Sephirin got a chance afterwards to, change his life around. And, what would have happened if Zelgius would have had that same chance, to go back to before he'd lost hope? That's what this section is about.
After watching the memory, there are 3 things that stand out.
I am accustomed to being alone. My only hesitation is that I will miss studying the sword under my commander, General Gawain.
He wants to reunite with Gawain and test his strength against him. This one is the most obvious because it was a major theme in Path of Radiance. The Black Knight fights and kills Gawain to prove that he has surpassed him as a warrior. Gawain is his goal, and he gives him drive to continue fighting, even when the world is against him. This leads to his second want.
My lord, the brand. Do you know of a way to remove it?
He wants to get rid of his brand. Zelgius was rejected by his own family for bearing a mark. He joined the military because it was the only place that accepted him, the only place where his heritage didn't matter. He doesn't want to be scorned or hated. He wants to become close to people, but he cannot and is forced to live alone. If only he was not branded. If only he did not have to live a life of isolation, perhaps he could find peace.
If I join you, will I be redeemed?
Finally, he wants to be redeemed. According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, the definition of redeemed is to free from whatever distresses or harms, such as to extricate from or to help overcome something detrimental. Another definition is to change for the better, reform, repair, or restore. This is very closely tied to his desire to remove his brand. However, I'm treating it as a separate want since he can be redeemed despite his brand. Zelgius wants to be made whole again. Getting rid of his brand would bring him back to square one, back to being a normal person. The redemption he wants is his healing after this. The loneliness and disdain he felt needs to be replaced with acceptance and genuine care. If removing his brand is framed in the present, redemption is framed in his future.
Nothing really to say. I think I still agree pretty well with that segment. And, those three wants being what Zelgius wanted and needed prior to, joining forces with Sephirin.
What you said is cool and all, but I don't see how any of this leads to a romance between Micaiah and the Black Knight.
Here's the big secret, lads. Practically nothing in Tellius is romantic.
Oh, that was a hot take. I still agree with that hot take, actually. And by saying that nothing is romantic, I don't mean that there aren't things that happen that are romantic, because they definitely are, Some people get married, some people fall in love, whatever. But there's a much better or much larger focus on, friendship and bonds like that. For example, like the bonds between the Grail Mercenaries or the bonds between the Dawn Brigade. And that's the focus of this game as opposed to romance. Is there romance? Well, of course. I mean, look at Gatry exists. Heather exists. Amy, oh my goodness, exists, right? So, there are definitely characters that have love and stuff on the brain, but, real talk, honestly, most of the stuff that happens in the game is focused more on the friendship aspect of characters and their relationships. Can you interpret stuff as romantic? Yes. Shipping is fun. But do you need to? No.
This is the game that only has 6 potential marriages at the end, after all. And even those are of varying quality. There's nothing forcing you to see in-game Micaiah and the Black Knight as romantic. In fact, I think the most accurate romantic description for their interactions is Micaiah having a celebrity crush on the Black Knight that ends up turning into friendship.
I still agree with this take. I don't think their in-game bond is romantic at all. And, if you want to put a romantic spin on it, cool, that's cool. It's fun to do in, fan works and stuff. I don't think that's their canon relationship. I think that their canon relationship is something of mutual trust between the two of them.
I don't ship them because of how they interact in-game. I ship them because of how they could have interacted in-game. I ship their potential, if you will. Should the circumstances have been different, I think our relationship could have blossomed and thrived. Or at the very least, I think they complement each other very well. Both Micaiah and the Black Knight are loyal generals, serving their king and their lord respectively with the utmost devotion. Even when their methods are less than desirable, they continue to serve without fault. They are both branded, so they were shunned by all of humanity and forced to live a life on the run. We don't know much about Micaiah, other than she was taken from Benyon and entrusted to some woman who told her what her brand meant. Micaiah tried not to forge bonds with people, but Soth and the people of Dayan helped her overcome that fear. Because of this, Micaiah exhibits a different outlook than other branded. Soren is a cynic who doesn't trust people. His actions reflect his self-interest because he suffered so much as a child.
I've got to cry over Soren because when I played through Radiant Dawn, I got the conversation, that one. And it was sad. Yeah.
Patrine fights for Dayan and hates the Legus, presumably because they hate her even more as a branded. Not much else is known about her. Stefan, old and wise as he is, hides from the world in his desert colony. He knows that coexisting with the humans is futile, so he created a safe haven for the branded. After the events of the game, his country is open to like-minded individuals and his kingdom prospers. But it's clear that the person who paved the way for Beork and Legus to accept the branded is Micaiah. She worked miracles in the backstreets of Dayan, healing people at the cost of her own life. She loves her country and her people because they showed her love. In Chapter 1.8, Micaiah talks to Soth about what she did after the Mad King's War, when he was still with Commander Ike. She told Sothe that the country was in ruins, but that the people of Dayan supported each other to survive. Because she was from Dayan, they showed her kindness, and she was surprised at how strong people become when they join together. It's because she was shown this care that she devotes herself to Dayan and its restoration, but it's also the reason she treasures humanity and the lives of all people. At the end of the game, Micaiah becomes Queen of Dayan. She brings prosperity to her country. She doesn't let prejudice stop her from ruling, and it's easy to conclude that since her kingdom flourished, people's treatment of the Legus and Branded shifted as well. She pioneers a world where Beorc, Legus, and Branded can be treated equally.
I agree with this section of the video still. I don't really think I have anything to say about it.
Zelgius loathed his brand so much.
Yeah, this actually is heresy against Dayan and against Radiant Dawn. I'm sorry, Peleus. I love you a lot, and I didn't mean to commit this heresy against you.
He wanted it removed. When Severin could not, Zelgius settled for the next best thing, an end to his isolation. He found consolation in someone similar to him and worked toward that man's goal, the destruction of all humanity. This path only leads to his demise. He has no future here. Through Severin's conversations with Rayson in the tower, it seems that Ashura plans on sparing the Herons, but the same cannot be said for Zelgius. Herons are avatars of order, but Zelgius has shown through his desire to battle strong opponents like Gawain that he has much chaos within him. Unless Ashura has mercy on those who work towards waking her, he will die along with the rest of the humans walking the face of Teleus. His journey in Radiant Dawn ends much as it began. He is alone. He accomplishes one of his goals, to fight Gawain in his prime, but the other two, to remove his brand and to be redeemed, they fall flat. Even his consolation goal, to not be alone, fails. Should the player choose to fulfill the conditions for the true ending, Zelgius must wait over 1,000 years to be reunited with Severin in the afterlife. This path is the only one Zelgius is allowed to explore in Radiant Dawn. He barrels toward his own death. He isn't given the chance at redemption, or the chance at a future.
I think about this every single day of my life, and it's just tragic. It's very tragic.
But what if he was? What if someone could lead him on a different path, one that does not end in his death? If it wasn't clear from the whole premise of the video, I think Micaiah is the one who could redeem him. Zelgius's 3 wants to fight Gawain, to remove his brand, and to be redeemed could have been realized through Micaiah. Radiant Dawn would not have to change much to accommodate this development. In fact, it could play out exactly the same, all the way through part 2 of the endgame.
Okay, so this part of the video, if I'm remembering correctly, is more about like a what-if scenario, which, while cool, it doesn't have to happen. Like, I understand that this is a narrative choice from the perspective of the writers, that this is supposed to be tragic, it's supposed to be sad, that now you sympathize with the Black Knight and now he's dead. So, while the whatever's going to come next, I think that the changes were like minimal and like okay. I don't expect this to be something that would happen, nor do I necessarily want them to go down this route in the future. It's more of a exploration of the themes. I do think, again, that Micaiah is the person that could bring Zelgius off of his track, his one track of destruction, and onto somewhere where, you know, he could live a fulfilling life. I do think that. But again, we're talking about what ifs in a game that, you know, he kind of dies. But I know for me personally, death as redemption, just, it never sits well. Especially when you have, you know, later on, Ike telling Severin that he has to atone for what he did. You know, I think that that's a much more fulfilling redemption experience, to give him a chance to atone, or give Zelgius a chance to atone for what he did, as opposed to just, you know, killing him. But I digress.
This let Zelgius fight Gawain through his son Ike, fulfilling his first want. Micaiah showed through saving Severin that she can use sacrifice to bring people on death's door back to life. If she would have used this spell on Zelgius, his other 2 dreams would have had a chance to come true. His second want, to remove his brand, is more challenging. Obviously, Micaiah cannot physically remove his brand. However, she proves as Queen of Dayan that she can tear down the prejudice against the branded. She paves the way to a world where he belongs. His brand will not matter anymore if he no longer has to face the shame and isolation it brings. His third want, to be redeemed, can only come to fruition after this. He has a place in Micaiah's world. No longer looked on with scorn, he is free to do what he wants and begin a new life.
This still isn't romantic.
I know, it doesn't have to be. Romance isn't necessary for this redemption arc. But in my opinion, a romantic aspect creates a more fulfilling redemption experience, actually giving Zelgius the safe haven he needs and giving Micaiah strength and support. What if the Black Knight, after meeting Micaiah, was moved by her kindness? What if he saw a branded risking her life for humans? What if he saw the love that she outpours and started to question his own master's stance on people? I think it would be very interesting to see Zelgius wrestle with his loyalty to Sephron and his newfound admiration towards Micaiah and her ideals. Zelgius already pursues his own agenda while under Sephron, as seen in his clashes with Gawain and Ike. It wouldn't be a huge change in his character to see what Micaiah's group has to offer him. Micaiah already cares for him and has expressed her desire for him to stay with her in the Dayan army, and she would welcome him with open arms. Their wartime partnership could evolve as they got to know each other better, perhaps relating their goals, hopes, and dreams.
So, looking at this part again at least, I don't know if I 100% agree that it wouldn't be a huge jump in Zelgius' character, because, like previously stated, his whole point of his character is, his loyalty. And while I think it would be interesting for him to question it, I can't see him doing it. So, it'd be a huge jump. I don't agree with this section.
Maybe instead of joining Micaiah for good early on, the Black Knight stays his course all the way to the tower. Micaiah could save him using sacrifice and give him the chance at a future he didn't have before. If he stays with her, he has a constant companion, meaning he won't be alone anymore. Her world where her people love her despite her brand can become his own. This holds more meaning when they're together, able to share their burdens with each other and support each other. Finally, I personally have a soft spot for them getting married and having kids.
The domestic life, yes.
It seems like good closure for both of their stories. They began abandoned by their own families, forced to live on their own and on the run. Giving their own children the family that they themselves never had is a really sweet conclusion to their character arcs. This would give Zelgius the redemption he asked for. This future is one he never saw possible, as evidenced by his compliance in humanity's eradication. He probably would think himself undeserving, but Micaiah would ever be at his side, showing him the love that he never before received.
Man, the whole character that, had a poor childhood and then had a bad father and mother and, bad parents, bad life, and then going and then being parents, that's a good trope, and it applies really well to these two. It's good.
But hey, that's all my opinion. Like I said before, I like the potential these two have. They get my creative juices flowing. There was so much cool groundwork placed for their interactions, but the game didn't have a chance to explore it. I guess that means it's my job to do so.
Let's see. I didn't get a chance to talk about the drama CD, which had come out between when I made this video last and this now. But it had a lot to do with the interaction in 4-3 Distortions, where at this point, the Black Knight knows that Micaiah is branded, but she doesn't know that he's branded. And it's also, I believe, in the extended script. I haven't personally been able to read the extended script because I can't read Japanese, but I saw a translation of it recently that had him mentioning something about them being the same. So sometime Zelgius, the Black Knight, had found out that Micaiah has a brand, and we're told in the drama CD that he figures it out right when he figures out that Soren is branded in their interaction in 3-7. So sometime between 3-7 and 4-3, it's possible that this is when the Black Knight, when he met back up with Sephirin, told him that, hey, this girl, that maiden, yeah, she's branded. And that, I think, will lead into something in the addendum.
Okay, unscripted addendum here because I totally forgot about
this
this
is
scene while I
extremely
was making the
unscripted, if
video,
I'm remembering
and it was
correctly.
almost all the way edited by the time people brought it up to me, and I didn't feel like going back and changing literally a whole section just to put this in. So, in Endgame 2, there is a conversation that you can initiate with Micaiah and LaVale, which I got on my first time playing through the game, but I totally forgot about it, if we're being honest, because I was probably too concerned with the best boss conversation the game has to offer.
It's gonna copyright strike, not strike, but like copyright hit me if it hears this music. Maybe if I talk, it won't do it. But I kind of doubt that that's the case. You know how YouTube can be with all of this stuff. But man, horror is so metal.
In this conversation, LaVale tells Micaiah he's on direct orders from Zelgius to not harm her under any circumstances. You could argue that this is still based off of Sephirin's original wanting to bring Micaiah to the tower.
Yeah, so here, Sephirin wanted to bring Micaiah to the tower, as said in 4.3. And with the knowledge that the Black Knight figured out that she was branded between 3.7 and 4.3, it is very, very likely that this is the intended, meaning that he told Sephirin was like, oh dang, like that could be the apostle that I thought was dead. And because of that, he wanted Micaiah to come so he could see her. We don't know what he would have done if she was there. I doubt that her existence would have changed much, and I think he mentioned that too. He said, if I had known you lived, how would this have changed things? But we also know during this segment that LaVale is not supposed to hurt Sanaki either. He tells her, I think he tells her, we are not your enemy when she approaches him, so.
However, just 2 maps later, Sephirin has no qualms about fighting Micaiah and potentially killing her, so it doesn't hold a lot of merit at this point.
Yeah, that I think I had to put in a comment later that it's very clear, like, look at this, he's not attacking her whatsoever, so that was just straight up not correct information. Sephirin does not want to attack and kill her, and he asks, at the time, I want to say he says something like, if I would have known you were alive, would that have changed things?
He wants to protect her. Wow, how did I miss that? There's also a special death quote on that level if Micaiah dies, where Zelgius says that he wishes things didn't have to end that way, but then says that, well, the fate of the world's kind of already, it's gonna go the way it goes. And that just further reinforces that Zelgius did want that redemption. He didn't want things to end the way it did, but they did, and that kind of stunk.
Yeah, that's still legit, and that's still very sad that he realizes that he's gone to the point of no return. He knows that there's no chance, no hope, and no matter what happened to Micaiah, thinking that their hope is lost, like that's sad. I want to say that's the end of the video, and that the rest
Thank you
is
so much for watching this video.
Yeah, that's just the credits. So, my overall thoughts looking back, I don't know. I think that it's still a pretty good video. I don't think I have too much gripes with it. Overall, I think it does a decent job of, explaining the different interactions, what they mean, where we've gone with that. At this point, I think I've developed a better grip on what, the game interactions are like. I've seen more, I played through the game again. on the New Game Plus. It's not what it's called, but you know what I mean. To get all those fancy interactions with characters at the end. And, you know, it was very tragic looking through and seeing, especially all the stuff that happened with Sephiroth, like, oh, poor guy. But, yeah, even after playing through the game again and New Game Plus shenanigans, they're still my OTP, you know? And, it's still a really, really cool dynamic that didn't have a chance to be explored anywhere near as much as I wish it could have been, because, you know, the idea of two branded finding each other and one, you know, being as hopeless as Zelgius is and seeing that maybe there is hope left, that's good. And then redemption, that's atonement and not death, also good. So, wow, if you stayed through this long, that's pretty cool. Thanks. Maybe in a year, I'll respond to this video, the response to the response. Actually, no, that would be horrible. I'm not going to do that to you. But, yeah, so continue loving on Micaiah and the Black Knight, because I sure am, even after all this time. Take care, folks.